The people I'm speaking to who are in a position to know about where these investigations are headed are using phrases with me like, you haven't seen anything yet. There's more coming. And what they're referring to when I ask them is two things: the number of people that are about to be charged, but they're also referring to the caliber and magnitude of the cases. You're going to see more conspiracy. You're going to see people called out as leaders.
That is the FBI former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence, our friend and colleague Frank Figliuzzi, with an intriguing prediction about the investigation into the looting and rioting on January 6th. According to newly filed court documents, the Justice Department now expects to charge over 500 people when this is all over. In the magazine The Progressive, our next guest, Melissa Ryan, reports on extremists and their growing influence in local politics across our country. She writes, quote, state Republican parties across the nation are feeling the increased influence of Trumpian far-right extremists. At least 57 Republican state and local officials from 27 states were at the Capitol on January 6. Nearly all are facing calls to resign, but mostly from their political opposition, not other Republicans. As of mid-February, only 2 have stepped down. For more, we welcome to the broadcast Melissa Ryan. She is the author of a newsletter called Control, Alt-Right, Delete. It covers, as you might imagine, far-right extremism, white nationalism, disinformation, online toxicity. Needless to say, she's a busy woman. She's also worked on digital campaigns for nonprofits, political races, including Emily's List and Barack Obama's 2012 effort. Full disclosure, Melissa, I got off the air one night this week, read your entire Twitter thread, read the article, and asked our folks to invite you on at your earliest convenience. So thank you for coming. Another full disclosure is I am old enough to remember my parents worried about anti-fluoride in the water forces, getting seats on the local Board of Ed and City Council. They were worried about book burners, getting seats on the local Board of Ed and City Council. Tell us, please, what is going on at the local level across this country.
Sure. Well, that's such an apt example. What's old is new again. When we think about white supremacists and conspiracy theorists, I think Americans have a picture of the Capitol riots or marching in Charlottesville or maybe spreading hate online. But I wrote this article and I've been covering this for several years because it's important to understand how these same folks have been building political power. They've been running for office and they've been becoming involved in their state Republican Party over the last several years. And the article looks at 2 states specifically, Michigan and Arizona, but really they're an illustration of what we're seeing happening across the country. Republican parties in red states like Texas are now endorsing secessionist movements. And even in diehard blue states like Hawaii, the Republican Party got in trouble for posting pro-QAnon messages on social media. And so you also have Republican elected officials that have direct ties to extremist movements, or in some cases are members of organizations like the Oath Keepers themselves.
And our friend Susan Glasser over at The New Yorker writes that Republicans in Washington are acting as if 1/6 never happened. And this is a key part of your work, is identifying everyone came from somewhere, but just how many local officials, and now we know some select firefighters, police officers, folks who showed up on 1/6 that would surprise most people.
Yeah, there were actually 19 state legislators who at least attended Trump's rally on January 6th. At least one legislator in West Virginia has already resigned his office because he was caught on video storming the Capitol. We don't know about the 18 others, whether they made it to the Capitol. But the other interesting thing is they're not being called upon to resign or face pressure from their own party. They're being called on by the opposition, but their own party has a tolerance to an embracing of this.
In Marjorie Taylor Greene, we are learning what happens when a QAnon enthusiast is elected to Congress largely unopposed in her district. And while she's been stripped of her power, i.e. committee assignments, there she is taking up media oxygen and time. I'm assuming that at the local level, people aren't going to run for town council, school board on a QAnon platform, but they may reveal themselves through their beliefs once elected and seated. Are you finding any, at least anecdotal evidence on that front?
Yeah, so Media Matters researcher Alex Kaplan actually tracked this last cycle and found just a ton of congressional candidates and also state legislator candidates who are open QAnon supporters. As Congress don't have a caucus large enough to be a voting bloc, but the concern is in some of these state legislators, they will. These folks are legislating. They don't believe in democracy. It's an anti-democratic movement generally, and they're going to use their elected positions to pass bills that undermine American democracy.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.